A devastating flood engulfs Willow Creek, but a brave Labrador risks all to save his neighborhood, becoming a legend. Before we begin, subscribe to Pause Verve. If this story touches you, like and share it with others. The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, casting a golden glow across the neighborhood's tree-lined streets. Children's laughter echoed from the park, where a group played tag near the old oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the early spring breeze. Porches buzzed with life. Neighbors sipped iced tea, swapped stories, and waved to passing joggers. This was Willow Creek, a place where everyone knew your name, where front doors stayed unlocked and where community wasn't just a word, but a way of life. At the heart of it all was the Thompson family's modest two-story home, its white picket fence adorned with blooming roses. Inside, Sarah Thompson stirred a pot of chili, the savory aroma filling the kitchen. Her husband, Tom, lounged on the couch flipping through a fishing magazine, while their 10-year-old daughter, Lily, sprawled on the living room rug, sketching in her notebook. But the true star of the household wasn't human. Max, their 5-year-old Labrador retriever, lay beside Lily, his golden fur catching the fading sunlight. His deep brown eyes followed her every move, as if guarding her dreams. Max wasn't just a pet. He was family, woven into the fabric of their lives with a loyalty that needed no words. Max had been a gift to Lily when she was 5, a wriggling puppy who'd chewed her sneakers and slept at her feet. Now, at 60 pounds, he was a gentle giant with a heart as big as his appetite. He'd nudge Sarah's hand when she seemed stressed, curl up with Tom during late-night baseball games, and follow Lily everywhere, his tail wagging like a metronome. Lily called him her shadow, and for good reason. Max seemed to sense her emotions before she did. When she'd cried over a bad grade last month, Max had rested his head in her lap, staying until her tears dried. It was a quiet magic, the kind only a dog could wield. "Max, you're hogging my paper," Lily teased, nudging him as he sprawled across her sketch. He lifted his head, giving her a playful nudge back, his tongue lolling out. She giggled, scratching behind his ears, and returned to her drawing, a portrait of Max leaping for a frisbee. Sarah glanced over from the kitchen, smiling. "Dinner in 10, you two. Lily, wash up. Max, no stealing carrots this time." Max's ears perked at carrots, and he trotted to the kitchen, hopeful. Tom chuckled from the couch. "That dog's got better hearing than me." The evening felt perfect, the kind of moment you'd bottle if you could. Outside, the neighborhood hummed with its usual rhythm. Mr. Jenkins, the retired schoolteacher next door, watered his tulips, waving to the Garcia family as they walked their toddler Mia in her stroller. Across the street, the young couple, Emma and Nate, jogged past, their border collie darting ahead. Willow Creek wasn't flashy, no mansions, no gated estates, just a patchwork of homes filled with people who showed up for each other. Potlucks, block parties, and impromptu softball games were as common as the river that wound through town, its waters glinting in the distance. But the river, usually a gentle companion, hid a secret tonight. Far upstream, storm clouds gathered, dark and heavy, their edges lit by flashes of lightning. The local radio, playing softly in the Thompsons' kitchen, crackled with a weather alert. Heavy rain expected overnight, flash flood watch in effect for low-lying areas. Sarah frowned, turning up the volume. "Tom, did you hear that? They're saying the river might overflow." Tom glanced up, shrugging. "It's probably nothing. We've had warnings before. Rivers never gotten close to us." Sarah nodded, but a flicker of unease settled in her chest. Lily, oblivious to the radio, was busy sneaking Max a piece of cheese from the counter. "Don't tell Mom," she whispered, giggling as Max's tail thumped. She knelt beside him, resting her forehead against his. "So you're the best, Max. Promise you'll always be my buddy?" Max licked her cheek as if sealing the vow. For Lily, Max was more than a dog. He was her confidant, her protector, her hero in fur. She didn't know it yet, but that bond would soon be tested in ways no one could imagine. Outside, the first raindrops pattered against the windows, soft at first like a lullaby. The neighborhood began to wind down. Children called inside, porch lights flicked on, and the park emptied. Mr. Jenkins stored his watering can, glancing at the sky. The Garcias hurried home, Mia giggling under a blanket. Emma and Nate's dog barked at the thunder, a low rumble rolling in from the west. In the Thompsons' home, Sarah set the table, Tom folded his magazine, and Lily tucked her sketchbook away. Max curled up by the fireplace, his eyes half closed, content. But the storm was coming, faster and fiercer than anyone expected. The river, swollen by days of distant rain, churned restlessly, its banks straining. The weather alert looped again, more urgent now. Flash flood warning. Seek higher ground. Sarah paused, meeting Tom's eyes. Maybe we should check the basement, just in case. Tom nodded, heading downstairs, while Sarah pulled Lily close. Max lifted his head, ears twitching, sensing a shift in the air. The calm of Willow Creek was about to shatter, and Max, the loyal shadow, would soon step into the light. The night held its breath, the rain growing heavier, drumming against the roof. The Thompsons sat down to dinner, unaware that their world was about to change. Max lay at Lily's feet, his warmth a quiet comfort. But his eyes stayed alert, fixed on the window, where the storm's first true roar echoed in the distance. Something was coming. Something that would test their courage, their love, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog. The rain came down in sheets, a relentless roar that drowned out the usual nighttime hum of Willow Creek. By midnight, the gentle patter had turned into a deluge, hammering rooftops and swelling the river until it burst its banks. The Thompsons' cozy dinner felt like a distant memory as water crept into the neighborhood, transforming familiar streets into a dark, churning maze. Inside their home, Sarah stood at the living room window, her breath fogging the glass. The street lamp flickered, casting eerie shadows on the rising water that lapped at their mailbox. "Tom, it's getting worse," Sarah said, her voice tight. She clutched her phone, the weather app glowing with red alerts. Catastrophic flooding. Imminent. Evacuate low-lying areas. Tom joined her, his face grim as he watched the water climb the porch steps. "We need to get upstairs, now." He turned to Lily, who sat cross-legged on the couch, clutching Max's collar. The Labrador's ears were pinned back, his body tense, as if he could feel the danger pressing in. "Lily, grab your blanket." "And backpack," Sarah instructed, trying to keep her voice steady. Lily's eyes were wide, her sketchbook abandoned on the coffee table. "What about Max?" she asked, her voice trembling. Max pressed closer to her, his warmth a small anchor in the growing chaos. "He's coming with us," Tom said firmly, grabbing a flashlight and a bag of essentials. The family hurried upstairs, Max's nails clicking on the hardwood as he followed, his eyes darting to the windows. From the second-floor landing, they watched the flood invade their home. Water seeped under the front door, pooling in the foyer, then surging into the living room. Photo albums floated, furniture tipped, and the chili pot Sarah had left on the stove bobbed like a buoy. Lily gasped, burying her face in Max's fur. "It's ruining everything," she whispered. Sarah knelt beside her, stroking her hair. "We're safe up here, sweetheart. That's what matters." But her eyes betrayed her fear, flickering to the rising water below. Outside, Willow Creek was a nightmare. The river had swallowed the park, the old oak tree half submerged. Cars drifted like abandoned toys, their headlights glowing faintly underwater. Across the street, the Garcia family, Maria, Luis, and little Mia, climbed onto their roof, their shouts for help lost in the storm's howl. Mr. Jenkins, the elderly neighbor, was trapped in his attic, pounding on a window no one could hear. Emma and Nate, the young couple, clung to their car's roof as water swirled around them, their border collie nowhere in sight. The neighborhood's heartbeat had stopped. Porches where neighbors once laughed were underwater, the community's warmth replaced by cold, relentless fear. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, but rescue boats were stretched thin, prioritizing the worst-hit areas. Willow Creek, tucked in a low valley, was on its own for now. Radios crackled with updates, floodwaters rising at unprecedented rates. Stay off roads, await rescue. But waiting felt like surrender, and panic gripped every home. In the Thompsons' house, the family huddled in Lily's bedroom, the highest point. Tom barricaded the door with a dresser, though it felt futile against the flood's power. Sarah tried the radio, but static drowned out the signal. Lily sat on her bed, Max's, head in her lap, her fingers tracing his ears. "Oh, you're not scared, are you, Max?" she murmured, though her voice shook. Max's brown eyes met hers, steady and calm, as if promising to protect her. But his body was alert, his muscles taut, sensing something the family couldn't. Downstairs, the water reached the staircase, lapping at the first step. The house groaned under the flood's weight, windows rattling as debris slammed against the walls. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Maria Garcia. "En roof. Mia's cold." "Help?" Sarah's heart sank. "They're stranded," she told Tom, her voice breaking. Tom peered out the window, but the rain obscured everything. "Rescue's coming," he said, more hope than certainty. "They have to." But Max wasn't waiting. His ears twitched at a distant sound, a faint cry, maybe Mia's, carried by the wind. He stood, pacing, his whines growing urgent. Sarah grabbed his collar. "Max, stay, it's not safe." But Max's eyes were fixed on the window, where a broken pane let in the storm's roar. Before Sarah could react, he lunged, slipping through the gap and landing in the flooded yard below. Lily screamed, "Max, no!" and scrambled to the window, her parents pulling her back. From the window, they saw Max's golden fur vanish into the dark, churning water. He swam with powerful strokes, his head above the surface, navigating the street-turned river. Debris swirled around him, branches, a child's bike, a mailbox, but he pressed on, driven by an instinct no one understood. Lily sobbed, clinging to Sarah. "He's going to drown!" Sarah held her tight, her own tears falling. "He's strong, Lily, he knows what he's doing." Tom's jaw tightened, pride and fear warring in his eyes. Max's departure marked a shift. The Thompsons weren't just victims of the flood now. They were part of something bigger, something Max had already begun. In the distance, a rescue. Boat's light flickered, too far to see Max, but close enough to give hope. The storm raged on, but Willow Creek's spirit flickered in the heart of one brave dog, swimming through the chaos to save those he loved and those he'd never met. Lily wiped her eyes, staring into the night where Max had vanished. "He's coming back, right?" she asked, her voice small. Sarah didn't answer, but she squeezed Lily's hand, praying for a miracle. The flood had taken their home, their safety, their peace. But Max, their loyal shadow, was out there, fighting for them all. The floodwaters churned around Max, a cold, relentless force that tugged at his fur and stung his eyes. The Labrador swam through the submerged streets of Willow Creek, his powerful legs cutting through the current. The world he knew, sunlit lawns, children's laughter, the scent of Sarah's roses, was gone, replaced by a dark, swirling chaos. Debris floated past, a plastic chair, a sodden teddy bear, a splintered fence. "Post!" Yet Max's focus was unshakable. His ears pricked for the faint sound that had drawn him out. A human cry, weak but desperate, somewhere in the night. From the Thompsons' upstairs window, Lily pressed her face against the glass, her breath fogging the pain. "Max, come back," she whispered, her voice breaking. Sarah held her shoulders, her own heart pounding, while Tom scanned the darkness with the flashlight, its beam swallowed by the rain. The broken window they'd failed to secure mocked them, a reminder of how quickly Max had slipped away. "He's out there alone," Lily sobbed, clutching Max's favorite toy, a frayed rope bone. Sarah knelt beside her, forcing calm into her voice. "Max is tough, Lily. He's doing something important. We have to trust him." Max's world was water and instinct. The flood had erased landmarks, but his nose and ears guided him. The cry came again, sharper now, from the direction of Mr. Jenkins' house. The elderly neighbor lived alone, his small bungalow half submerged, its roof barely visible above the waterline. Max paddled toward it, his breath coming in short bursts. A current slammed him against a mailbox, the metal edge grazing his side, but he shook it off, his eyes fixed on the house. There, in the attic window, a faint light flickered, Mr. Jenkins's flashlight waving weakly. Inside the attic, Mr. Jenkins slumped against the wall, his strength fading. The 78-year-old had climbed the pull-down ladder as water flooded his home, but the effort had left him breathless. His shouts for help were lost in the storm, and his phone, dropped in the panic, lay somewhere below in the rising water. "Someone, please," he rasped, tapping the window with his flashlight. The glass was too thick to break, and his arthritic hands trembled. Loneliness gripped him as fiercely as the cold. Then, through the rain, he heard it. A deep, insistent bark. Max reached the bungalow, his paws scraping against the siding as he fought to stay afloat. He barked, loud and steady, his voice cutting through the storm's roar. The sound reached Mr. Jenkins like a lifeline. He dragged himself to the window, peering out to see Max's golden form treading water below, his eyes bright with purpose. "Max? That you, boy?" Mr. Jenkins called, his voice hoarse but hopeful. Max barked again, circling the house, searching for a way to help. In the distance, a rescue boat's motor hummed, its searchlight sweeping the flooded streets. The team, a mix of firefighters and volunteers, was overwhelmed, their radio crackling with reports of stranded residents. Max's barks caught their attention, a beacon in the chaos. "Over there!" shouted Jenna, a young firefighter, pointing toward Mr. Jenkins' house. The boat turned, its light catching Max's silhouette. He swam toward them, then back to the house, as if urging them to follow. Jenna frowned, incredulous. "Is that dog leading us?" Max's persistence paid off. The boat reached the bungalow, and Jenna spotted the attic window's faint glow. "Someone's inside," she called. The team anchored near the roof, and a volunteer climbed up, prying open the window. Mr. Jenkins, shivering and pale, was helped into the boat, wrapped in a blanket. He grabbed Jenna's arm, his eyes wet. "The dog, Max, he found me. I'd be gone without him." Jenna glanced at Max, now swimming alongside the boat, his tail wagging despite the cold. "That's one hell of a dog," she muttered, respect in her voice. Max didn't linger for praise. As soon as Mr. Jenkins was safe, he turned, his nose twitching, catching another faint sound. A child's cry, maybe Mia Garcia's, from further down the street. He swam on, his muscles burning, but his heart steady. The flood was a monster, but Max was a force of his own, driven by a loyalty that defied the storm. Back at the Thompsons, Lily's tears slowed as she clung to hope. "He's saving people, isn't he?" she asked, looking at Sarah. Sarah nodded, her throat tight. "He's our Max." The rescue boat moved on, Mr. Jenkins's story spreading among the team. "A dog did that?" asked a volunteer, shaking his head. Jenna, steering the boat, kept an eye on Max's path. "He's not just a dog," she said. "He's a hero." The storm showed no signs of slowing, but Max's courage lit a spark in Willow Creek. Neighbors, trapped in their homes, began to hear rumors of a golden Labrador braving the flood, and hope flickered in their hearts. From their window, the Thompsons caught a glimpse of the rescue boat's light, too far to see Max, but close enough to feel a shift. Tom's flashlight swept the water, searching for their dog. "He's out there, Lily," he said, his voice thick with pride. "He's doing what he was born to do." Lily hugged Max's rope bone, her fear giving way to awe. Max wasn't just her shadow anymore. He was Willow Creek's light in the dark. The rain pounded harder, the floodwaters rising, but Max swam on, his barks echoing through the night. Mr. Jenkins's rescue was just the beginning, a testament to a dog's heart that refused to break. Willow Creek was still in peril, but Max was out there fighting for every soul he could reach. The flood's grip on Willow Creek tightened, transforming the once vibrant neighborhood into a waterlogged wasteland. The river, now a raging beast, had swallowed streets, parks, and dreams, leaving homes half submerged and families fractured by fear. Dawn should have brought light, but the sky remained a heavy gray, the rain unyielding. From the Thompsons' upstairs window, Sarah, Tom, and Lily watched their world drown, the water now lapping at the second-floor landing. Lily clutched Max's rope bone, her eyes searching the chaos for her dog, who'd vanished into the flood to save Mr. Jenkins. Outside, Willow Creek was unrecognizable. The park's swings dangled underwater, the old oak tree reduced to a skeletal crown. Cars bobbed like flotsam, their alarms silenced by the flood's weight. The Garcia family, Maria, Luis, and 2-year-old Mia huddled on their roof, Mia's cries piercing the storm as Maria wrapped her in a sodden blanket. Across the neighborhood, Emma and Nate clung to their car's roof, the water creeping higher, their border collie lost to the current. In a small apartment, single mother Aisha cradled her infant son Amir on a mattress floating in their flooded living room, whispering prayers as the walls groaned. The human toll was matched by the flood's physical devastation. Porches collapsed, fences splintered, and cherished belongings, wedding photos, children's toys, heirloom quilts floated away. The community's heartbeat, once so strong, faltered under the weight of despair. Rescue boats, their engines straining, crisscrossed the area, but the scale of the crisis overwhelmed them. Radio dispatches crackled with urgency. Multiple residents stranded, resources stretched thin. Prioritize critical cases. For Willow Creek, help felt impossibly far away. Max, the golden Labrador, was a lone force against the chaos. After guiding rescuers to Mr. Jenkins, he swam through the flooded streets, his fur matted and his body aching. The water was a minefield of debris, shattered glass, tangled wires, a child's tricycle. But Max's instincts were sharp. His nose caught the scent of fear, his ears the faint sounds of life. He moved with purpose, driven by a loyalty that burned brighter than his exhaustion. The cry he'd heard next was Mia's, coming from the Garcia's roof, and he paddled toward it, his breath puffing in the cold air. The Garcia's house was a grim scene. Water lapped at the roof's edge, and Luis held a flashlight, its beam weak against the storm. Maria clutched Mia, whose tiny body shivered despite the blanket. "Someone's coming, baby," Maria whispered. Though her voice trembled with doubt, Luis scanned the darkness, his hope fading. Then a bark, deep insistent, cut through the rain. Max's golden form emerged, swimming toward them, his eyes locked on the roof. "It's the Thompsons' dog," Luis shouted, disbelief giving way to relief. Max barked again, circling the house, his presence a spark of hope. Max's barks drew a rescue boat, its searchlight cutting through the gloom. Jenna, the firefighter from Mr. Jenkins' rescue, was at the helm, her eyes narrowing as she spotted Max. "That dog again," she said, awe in her voice. The boat maneuvered close, and volunteers helped the Garcias aboard, Mia clinging to Maria's chest. Luis grabbed Jenna's hand, his voice thick. "He led you here. Max saved us." Jenna nodded, watching Max swim off, already seeking his next target. "He's saving everyone," she murmured. But Max's mission wasn't without peril. As he swam toward Emma and Nate's car, a powerful current surged, slamming him against a submerged stop sign. Pain flared in his shoulder, and for a moment he faltered, his head dipping underwater. The flood seemed to sense weakness, pulling harder, yet Max's heart refused to yield. He surfaced, gasping, and pressed on, his eyes fixed on the car where Emma and Nate waved frantically. Their shouts, "Help! Over here!" spurred him forward, his legs churning despite the pain. Back at the Thompsons, the family caught snippets of Max's heroics through a crackling radio. A neighbor's voice broke through the static. "That dog's out there, leading boats to people. He got Jenkins, the Garcias." Lily's eyes widened, pride swelling past her fear. "That's Max," she said, gripping Sarah's hand. Sarah's tears fell silently, her heart torn between awe and terror for her dog. Tom paced, his flashlight sweeping the water below, where their living room was now a lake. "He's doing what we can't," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Max reached Emma and Nate's car, barking to signal their location. Another rescue boat, alerted by his noise, approached, its crew pulling the couple to safety. Emma sobbed, reaching for Max as he swam alongside. "You're incredible," she whispered, but Max was already moving, his nose catching Aisha's faint cries in the distance. The neighborhood began to buzz with his name, whispered among stranded residents, crackled over radios, even caught by a local news crew braving the storm. "A dog saving Willow Creek," a reporter said, her camera panning the flooded streets. Flood's devastation was undeniable, but Max's courage was a counterforce, stitching hope into the community's frayed fabric. Neighbors trapped in attics and on rooftops clung to stories of the golden Labrador, their fear tempered by the thought of him out there, fighting for them. Max's body ached, his strength waning, but his spirit burned fierce, a beacon in the dark. Lily sat by the window, Max's rope bone in her lap, her eyes scanning the water. "He's not stopping, is he?" she asked, her voice soft but sure. Sarah hugged her, nodding. "Not our Max. The flood had taken so much, but it couldn't take the love that drove one dog to risk everything for his people. The floodwaters of Willow Creek churned with a vengeance, but Max, the golden Labrador, was a force of defiance. His fur was soaked, his shoulder bruised from the stop sign collision, and his breaths came in ragged puffs, yet he swam on, driven by an unshakable sense of duty. The storm's roar couldn't drown out the cries he sought, Aisha's voice, faint but desperate, calling from her flooded apartment. Max's ears twitched, locking onto the sound, and he paddled through the debris-strewn water, his eyes burning with purpose. In the Thompsons' upstairs refuge, Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, clutching Max's rope bone, her face pale but resolute. The radio propped on her nightstand crackled with updates, rescue operations ongoing, reports of a dog leading boats to stranded residents. Lily's heart leapt at each mention, her pride for Max battling her fear. Sarah sat beside her, stroking her hair, while Tom leaned against the wall, his flashlight dimming as he listened to the storm's relentless assault. "He's still out there," Lily said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "He's saving everyone." Max's latest mission led him to Aisha's apartment, a ground-floor unit now submerged to the windows. Inside, Aisha balanced on a floating mattress, her infant son, Amir, cradled in her arms. The water was chest-deep, cold as ice, and the mattress rocked precariously as she sang softly to calm Amir's whimpers. "We're okay, baby," she whispered, though her voice shook. Her phone was dead, her shouts unheard, and hope was slipping away. Then, through the shattered window, she heard a bark, deep, insistent like a promise. Max's golden head bobbed in the water outside, his eyes meeting hers with unwavering resolve. Max circled the building, barking relentlessly, his voice a beacon in the chaos. His noise drew a rescue boat, its searchlight cutting through the rain. Jenna, the firefighter who'd seen Max save Mr. Jenkins and the Garcias, was at the helm again. "There he is!" she shouted, spotting Max. The boat maneuvered close, and a volunteer peered through Aisha's window, spotting her and Amir. "We've got you," he called, helping them aboard. Aisha clutched Amir, tears streaming as she looked at Max. "That dog, he found us," she sobbed. Jenna nodded, her respect for Max deepening. "He's not stopping." But Max was exhausted. His legs trembled as he swam, his body shivering in the frigid water. A piece of debris, a jagged board, grazed his flank, drawing a yelp, but he pressed on. The next cry he heard was faint, from a house where a teenage boy, Jamal, was trapped in a second-floor bedroom. Max's barks guided another boat to the site, and Jamal was pulled to safety, his eyes wide as he saw the dog leading the way. "That's the Thompsons' dog," he said, awestruck. "He's everywhere." The neighborhood was beginning to hum with Max's name. Stranded residents, huddled in attics or on rooftops, shared stories of the golden Labrador who seemed to be everywhere at once. Radios crackled with his exploits. Dog leads rescue team to elderly man, family on roof saved, mother and baby found. A local news crew braving the flood in a reinforced van caught grainy footage of Max swimming alongside a boat, his head high despite the current. The reporter, a young woman named Clara, spoke into her microphone. "In the heart of this disaster, a hero has emerged, a dog named Max risking everything to save Willow Creek." Back at the Thompsons, the radio brought Max's story home. Lily's eyes shone with pride, though worry lingered. "He's hurt, isn't he?" she asked, clutching the rope bone tighter. Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Maybe a little. But Max is strong, Lily. He's doing this for us, for everyone." Tom, usually stoic, wiped his eyes. "Never thought our goofball could do this," he said, his voice thick. The family clung to the radio, each update a lifeline, proof that Max was still fighting. Not everyone believed in Max at first. A grizzled rescue volunteer, Mike, scoffed when Jenna pointed out Max's latest lead. "A dog? Come on, it's just luck," he said, steering their boat. But when Max's barks led them straight to Jamal's house, Mike's skepticism cracked. "Okay, that's no fluke," he admitted, watching Max swim off again. Jenna smirked. "Told you, that dog's smarter than half of us." Mike shook his head, a grudging smile forming. Hell of a dog. Max's efforts were a spark in Willow Creek's darkness. Neighbors, hearing of his rescues, found new strength to hold on. The Garcia family, now safe at a shelter, told everyone about Max's role in saving them. Mr. Jenkins, wrapped in a blanket, recounted his story to Clara's news crew, his voice trembling. "I was done for, then Max showed up. That dog's a miracle." The footage aired on local stations, spreading Max's legend beyond the neighborhood, a beacon of hope in a region battered by the flood. But the storm wasn't done. The water rose higher, swallowing more of Willow Creek, and Max's strength was waning. His barks grew hoarser, his movements slower, yet he refused to stop. In the Thompsons' home, Lily prayed silently, her fingers tracing the rope bones' frayed edges. "Come back to me, Max," she whispered, her voice a mix of love and fear. Sarah and Tom exchanged a glance, their pride in Max tempered by the growing dread that he might not make it home. Max's golden form disappeared into the flood again, his heart pulling him toward the next cry, the next life to save. Willow Creek was a community on the brink, but Max's courage was weaving a thread of hope, binding neighbors together in awe of one dog's unbreakable spirit. The flood's relentless assault on Willow Creek continued, its waters a cold, unyielding force that swallowed homes and hope alike. In the Thompsons' upstairs refuge, the air was thick with tension, the creak of the house mingling with the storm's roar outside. Lily sat by the window, Max's rope bone cradled in her lap, her eyes fixed on the dark water below. The radio, now their lifeline to the world, crackled with updates of Max's heroics, saving Mr. Jenkins, the Garcias, Aisha and Amir, and young Jamal. Yet each report deepened the family's mix of pride and dread, knowing their beloved Labrador was out, there risking everything. Sarah knelt beside Lily, her hand resting on her daughter's shoulder. "He's doing something amazing, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft but strained. Lily nodded, her fingers tracing the rope bone's frayed edges. "But what if he doesn't come back?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. Sarah's heart clenched, but she forced a smile. "Max always comes back to you. He's your shadow, remember?" Lily's lips trembled, wanting to believe but haunted by the flood's cruelty. Tom paced the room, his flashlight flickering as the batteries weakened. Guilt gnawed at him, for the broken window Max had slipped through, for not securing the house better, for letting their dog face the storm alone. "We should have stopped him," he muttered, more to himself than Sarah. She met his eyes, her own guilt mirrored there. "He didn't give us a choice, Tom. Max knew what he had to do." The words hung heavy, a testament to the dog who'd always been more than a pet. Max's bond with the Thompsons was the heartbeat of their family, a connection woven through years of quiet, unspoken moments. As the storm raged, memories surfaced, grounding them in the love that fueled Max's courage. Sarah's mind drifted to the day they brought Max home, a wriggling puppy with oversized paws. Lily, then 5, had squealed as he licked her face, declaring him her best friend forever. That night, Max slept at the foot of Lily's bed, a habit he never broke, his soft snores a lullaby through her childhood fears. Another memory flickered. Lily's first day of 3rd grade, when nerves had left her tearful and silent. Sarah had coaxed her to the school bus, but it was Max who'd sensed her distress. He'd pressed his head into her lap, his warm weight calming her until she managed a shaky smile. "You're braver than you think," Sarah had told her, but it was Max who'd made Lily believe it. His intuition was a gift, reading their emotions with a clarity that felt almost human. Tom's thoughts turned to a darker time 2 years ago, when a back injury had landed him in the hospital for a week. The pain was brutal, but the loneliness stung worse until Sarah brought Max to visit. The Labrador had curled up on the hospital bed, defying nurses' rules, his head resting on Tom's chest. "You're gonna be okay, buddy," Tom had whispered, more to himself than Max, drawing strength from the dog's steady presence. Max hadn't just been a companion. He'd been a lifeline, even small moments carried weight. Sarah recalled a near disaster last summer when a kitchen towel caught fire from a forgotten stove burner. She'd been upstairs, unaware, until Max's frantic barks pulled her down. He'd stood by the stove, barking until she doused the flames, his tail wagging in relief as she hugged him. "You're our hero," she'd said, not knowing how prophetic those words would be. Max's loyalty wasn't just instinct. It was love pure and fierce that drove him now. In the present, Lily's voice broke the silence. "He's saving people because he loves us, right?" she asked, looking at Sarah. Her mother nodded, tears brimming. "He loves you most of all, Lily. That's why he's out there." The words were a comfort, but they sharpened the family's fear. Max's heroics were a miracle, but every bark, every swim through the flood was a gamble with his life. The Heartwarming radio crackled again. Dog leads rescue to stranded teen. More reports of the Labrador's efforts. Lily's face lit up, but her grip on the rope bone tightened. A knock at the bedroom door startled them. Tom opened it to find Nate, the young neighbor Max had helped save, standing drenched but safe. He'd been dropped off by a rescue boat and waded to their house to check on them. "Mackie, he got us out," Nate said, his voice thick with gratitude. "Led the boat right to our car. He's still out there, you know." Lily's eyes widened, pride swelling. "That's my Max," she said, her voice stronger. Nate nodded, managing a smile. "He's everybody's Max now." Nate's words sank in, shifting the family's perspective. Max wasn't just their dog anymore. He was Willow Creek's beacon, a symbol of hope in a community unraveling. Yet the personal loss loomed large. Sarah thought of Max's goofy grin, his habit of stealing carrots, the way he'd sprawl across Lily's sketches. Tom pictured Max's wagging tail, his eager leaps for a frisbee. Lily saw her shadow, the dog who'd never left her side, until, now when he'd left to save them all. The storm's howl filled the silence, the floodwaters creeping higher. The radio buzzed with another update. Labrador sighted near flooded apartment complex. Sarah's breath caught, and Lily whispered, "Be careful, Max." The family clung to their memories, to the love that had shaped Max into the hero he was. He was out there fighting for Willow Creek, but his heart belonged to them, a bond that no flood could break. The floodwaters in Willow Creek reached their peak, a merciless high tide that tested the spirit of every resident. The rain, though still falling, began to lighten, and the river's furious surge slowed, as if exhausted by its own wrath. In the Thompsons' upstairs haven, Sarah, Tom, and Lily clung to the radio, its static-laced updates a lifeline to Max's heroics. The Golden Labrador had saved Mr. Jenkins, the Garcias, Aisha and Amir, Jamal and others, his barks guiding rescue boats through the chaos. Yet the family's pride was shadowed by fear. Max was out there, battered and weary, in a flood that showed no mercy. Outside, the neighborhood was a battlefield of water and wreckage. Homes sagged under the flood's weight, their foundations cracked, their memories soaked. The park, once alive with laughter, was a lake, the old oak tree's branches barely breaking the surface. But a shift was stirring. Max's courage, a single dog's refusal to yield, was kindling hope in Willow Creek's heart. His name echoed in every attic, rooftop and rescue boat, a rallying cry for a community on the brink. Max swam through the flooded streets, his body screaming for rest. His fur was matted with mud, his shoulder throbbed from the stop sign collision, and a fresh cut on his flank stung with every stroke. Yet his eyes burned with resolve, locked on the next faint cry, a woman's voice, trembling from a house near the neighborhood's edge. It was Mrs. Carter, a widow in her 60s, trapped on her second-floor balcony as water lapped at the railing. Max's barks rang out, hoarse but unrelenting, cutting through the storm's fading roar. The rescue boat, led by Jenna, followed Max's lead. "There's our guy," she said, her voice thick with admiration. The boat reached Mrs. Carter's. House and volunteers helped her aboard, her hands shaking as she clutched a photo of her late husband. "That dog. He's an angel," she whispered, watching Max swim off again. Jenna radioed the update. Another rescue, thanks to the Labrador. The news spread, fueling the efforts of exhausted rescuers and giving stranded residents a reason to hold on. Max's impact rippled beyond rescues. In the Garcia family's shelter, Maria shared their story with other evacuees, her voice steady, despite Mia's restless sleep in her arms. "Max found us on the roof. Without him, we'd be gone." Her words inspired a volunteer to distribute blankets, another to organize food supplies. At the community center, Mr. Jenkins, now safe, told his tale to a growing crowd, his eyes bright. "That dog gave me a second chance." His gratitude spurred neighbors to share what little they had: water bottles, granola bars, dry socks, building a fragile but growing sense of unity. The Thompsons felt the shift too. A neighbor, rescued earlier, waded to their house with news. "Max got Mrs. Carter out. He's still going." Lily's face lit up, her fear easing. "He's not giving up," she said, clutching Max's rope bone. Sarah exchanged a look with Tom, their guilt softening into awe. "He's changing everything," Sarah said, her voice soft. Tom nodded, his jaw tight. "Our dog's waking this town up." But Max's strength was faltering. As he swam toward another cry, a child's faint but urgent, he hesitated, his legs sluggish. The flood's cold had seeped into his bones and his breaths were shallow. He paused, treading water, his head dipping briefly below the surface. The child's cry came again, sharper, from a house where a girl, Sophie, clung to a windowsill, her parents shouting for help. Max's ears twitched, and something deep within him stirred. A memory of Lily's laugh, her hand in his fur, her voice calling him her hero. He surged forward, his heart outpacing his body. Max's barks drew Jenna's boat to Sophie's house. The girl, no older than Lily, was pulled to safety, her parents sobbing with relief. "Thank that dog," her father said, pointing to Max, who was already swimming away. Jenna watched him go, her chest tight. "He's running on fumes," she told her crew. "We need to keep up with him." The rescue teams, inspired by Max, redoubled their efforts, coordinating with volunteers to cover more ground. The flood was still a monster, but Max's defiance was contagious. The news crew, led by Clara, captured Max's latest rescue on camera, the footage grainy but powerful. Clara's voiceover aired on local stations. In Willow Creek, a dog named Max is rewriting the story of this flood, saving lives and inspiring a community to fight back. The broadcast reached shelters, hospitals, and homes beyond the neighborhood, planting seeds of hope in a region battered by loss. Strangers began donating supplies, volunteers poured in, and Willow Creek's spirit flickered brighter. In the Thompsons' home, the radio buzzed with Clara's report. Lily smiled, her first real smile since Max left. "Everyone knows Max now," she said, her voice proud. Sarah hugged her, tears falling. "He's showing them what love looks like." Tom stood by the window, watching the water recede slightly, the first sign of the flood's retreat. "He's giving us a chance," he said, his voice steady with new resolve. Max, oblivious to his growing legend, swam on, his body a shadow of its strength, but his heart a blazing fire. The child's cry was safe now, but others called, fainter. Further, Willow Creek was turning a corner, its people rallying, its hope rekindled by one dog's unbreakable will. The flood had taken much, but Max was giving back more: life, courage, and a reason to believe. The floodwaters in Willow Creek began to retreat, as if the river, exhausted by its rampage, had finally relented. The rain tapered to a drizzle, and slivers of pale sunlight pierced the gray sky, illuminating a neighborhood scarred but unbroken. Streets, once raging torrents, were now muddy quagmires littered with debris, sodden furniture, shattered windows, and the remnants of lives. Upended. The Thompsons, still huddled in Lily's upstairs bedroom, felt the shift. The water, which had crept to the second-floor landing, was receding, leaving a watermark of grief on their walls. Yet their hearts were fixed on Max, the golden Labrador, whose heroics had become Willow Creek's lifeline. Lily sat by the window, Max's rope bone in her hands, her eyes scanning the street below. The radio, now a constant companion, buzzed with updates, flood levels dropping. Rescue operations ongoing, led in part by a dog named Max. Each mention of his name sparked pride in Lily, but fear lingered. Max was still out there, his strength fading with every life he saved. Sarah sat beside her, her arm around Lily's shoulders. while Tom stood at the door listening to the house's eerie silence. "He's coming back," Lily said, her voice firm despite her trembling fingers. Sarah nodded, praying it was true. Outside, Willow Creek bore the flood's brutal signature. The park was a swamp, its swings twisted and buried in mud. The old oak tree, a neighborhood landmark, leaned precariously, its roots exposed. Homes sagged, their interiors gutted, photo albums, ruined, heirlooms lost, dreams soaked through. The Garcia family's house was a shell, its roof stained where they'd waited for rescue. Mr. Jenkins' bungalow listed to one side, its attic window still cracked from his escape. Yet amid the wreckage, signs of life emerged. Neighbors ventured. Out, wading through ankle-deep water, their faces etched with exhaustion but lit with gratitude. Max was the reason. His rescues, Mr. Jenkins, the Garcias, Aisha and Amir, Jamal, Mrs. Carter, Sophie and countless others, had saved dozens of lives. His barks had guided boats, his courage had inspired rescuers, and his story had united a community. As the water receded, Max's golden form appeared, limping through the mud toward the Thompsons' house. His fur was caked with grime, his flank bloodied from debris, and his eyes were heavy with exhaustion. Yet his tail wagged, a faint but stubborn signal of his spirit. Lily spotted him first. "Max!" she screamed, scrambling to the window. Sarah and Tom rushed over, their breath catching as they saw their dog, battered but alive. Tom threw open the bedroom door and the family waded downstairs, the water now knee-deep in the living room. Lily reached the front door first, flinging it open. Max staggered toward her, his head low, and collapsed into her arms. She sank to her knees, sobbing, her face buried in his muddy fur. "You came back," she whispered, hugging him tightly. Max licked her cheek, his warmth a miracle against the cold. Sarah knelt beside them, tears streaming as she stroked Max's head. "You're our hero," she said, her voice breaking. Tom, his eyes wet, rested a hand on Max's back, feeling the dog's trembling frame. "Good boy," he said, the words heavy with love. Max's tail thumped weakly, his eyes meeting each of theirs, as if reassuring them he was home. The reunion was a beacon in the flood's aftermath, a moment of joy amid the ruin. Neighbors began to gather, drawn by the sight of Max's return. Maria Garcia, holding Mia, approached, her eyes shining. "He saved us," she said, kneeling, to pet Max. Mr. Jenkins, leaning on a cane, hobbled over, his voice thick. "I owe him my life." Aisha, with Amir in a sling, joined them, her gratitude silent but profound. The crowd grew, Jamal, Mrs. Carter, Sophie's family, all bearing stories of Max's bravery. Their homes were damaged, their lives upended, but Max had given them something to hold on to, each other. Clara, the news reporter, arrived with her crew, her camera capturing the emotional scene. "This is Max," she said into her microphone, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "The dog who saved Willow Creek." The footage showed Max surrounded by neighbors, Lily's arms around him, and the community's collective gratitude. Aired across local stations, it painted Max as a symbol of resilience, his story a light in the region's darkness. Social media buzzed with Max the hero, and strangers sent messages of support, moved by a dog's selflessness. The Thompsons' living room, though flooded, became a temporary hub. Neighbors shared what they could, dry clothes, a thermos of coffee, a child's blanket. They swapped stories of Max's rescues, each tale weaving them closer. "He led the boat right to our roof," Luis Garcia said, his arm around Maria. "Barked until they saw us." Sophie, clutching her mother's hand, added, "He found me at the window. I wasn't scared anymore." The stories built a tapestry of hope, proof that Willow Creek's spirit hadn't drowned. Max, cleaned and wrapped in a towel, lay by Lily's side, his breathing steadier. Sarah brought him a bowl of water, which he lapped weakly. "He needs rest," she said, her voice gentle but firm. Lily nodded, stroking his ears. "You did enough, Max." But Max's eyes, though tired, held a quiet strength, as if he knew his work had changed everything. The flood had taken much, but Max had given back more. Lives saved, a community reborn. As dusk settled, the neighborhood stood together, their losses raw, but their resolve growing. Max's return was a spark, igniting their will to rebuild. The Thompsons looked at their dog, their home, their neighbors, and felt a fragile but fierce hope. Willow Creek was down but not out, and Max, their muddy, magnificent hero, was proof. The sun rose over Willow Creek, its rays glinting off the receding floodwaters and casting a fragile warmth on a neighborhood in recovery. The streets, caked with mud, bore the scars of the deluge, upended cars, shattered windows, and homes stripped of their warmth. Yet amidst the wreckage, a quiet strength emerged. Neighbors, once isolated by fear, now worked side by side, clearing debris and sharing supplies. At the heart of this renewal was Max, the golden Labrador whose courage had saved dozens of lives and rekindled Willow Creek's spirit. The Thompsons, still reeling from his return, felt the community's gratitude gathering like a tide. Lily sat on the front porch. Max curled at her feet, his fur clean but his body still weary from his heroics. His shoulder was bandaged, and a vet had checked his cuts, prescribing rest and care. Lily stroked his ears, her fingers gentle, her eyes bright with pride. "You're famous now, Max," she said, a smile breaking through her lingering worry. Sarah and Tom stood nearby, sipping coffee from chipped mugs, their home a soggy mess, but their hearts full. The radio, now silent, had been replaced by voices, neighbors stopping by, each with a story of Max's bravery. The idea for a ceremony came from Maria Garcia, whose family owed their lives to Max. "He's more than a dog," she said at a makeshift neighborhood meeting in the park, its muddy ground a stark reminder of the flood. "He's our hero. We need to honor him." The crowd, Mr. Jenkins, Aisha, Jamal, Mrs. Carter, and dozens more, nodded, their faces lit with agreement. Plans spread quickly, fueled by a shared need to celebrate something good amidst the loss. By noon, the community had organized a gathering, set for that evening in the park's least damaged corner. As dusk fell, Willow Creek transformed the park into a stage for gratitude. Volunteers strung battery-powered lanterns from the old oak tree, its roots still muddy but standing firm. A folding table held homemade treats, cookies, lemonade, and a pile of dog biscuits for Max. Children, including Sophie and Jamal, painted a banner, "Max, our hero." The air buzzed with anticipation, neighbors arriving in borrowed clothes, their faces weary but hopeful. Clara, the news reporter, brought her crew, her camera ready to capture the moment for a world already captivated by Max, the hero. The Thompsons arrived with Max on a leash, though he tugged gently, eager to greet the crowd. Lily held his collar, her chest swelling with pride, while Sarah and Tom followed, overwhelmed by the turnout. Over 100 people gathered, their applause rising as Max appeared. Mr. Jenkins, leaning on his cane, stepped forward first, his voice trembling. "Max found me in my attic," he said, petting Max's head. "I was done for, but he gave me another day." Max licked his hand, drawing soft laughter from the crowd. Maria Garcia spoke next, holding Mia, who giggled and reached for Max. "He led the boat to our roof. Without him, we wouldn't be here." Luis handed Max a giant bone, wrapped in a red ribbon, and Max's tail wagged, his eyes bright despite his fatigue. Aisha, with Amir in her arms, added, "He saved my baby. I'll never forget him." She placed a handmade card at Max's feet, its crayon heart signed by her neighbors. One by one, residents shared their stories: Jamal's rescue, Mrs. Carter's balcony, Sophie's window, each tale a thread in Max's growing legend. The mayor, a reserved woman named Ellen, took the microphone, her usual formality softened by emotion. "Max is a reminder of what makes Willow Creek special," she said. "Courage, love, community. Today I declare this Max Day, a celebration of his heroism and our resilience." The crowd cheered, and Ellen knelt to place a handmade collar around Max's neck, its leather stitched with his name in gold thread. Max sat proudly as if understanding, and Lily beamed, whispering, "That's my boy." Clara's news crew captured every moment, the footage airing live across local stations. Social media exploded with clips of Max, the hashtag #JohnMaxTheHero trending nationwide. Strangers sent messages of awe, some offering donations for Willow Creek's recovery. Yet the Thompsons felt a quiet unease amidst the fanfare. Sarah watched reporters swarm, her hand on Tom's arm. "It's a lot," she murmured. Tom nodded, his eyes on Max. "He's still our dog, not a celebrity." Lily, though, soaked in the love, her pride for Max unshaken. The ceremony ended, with children crowding Max, offering treats and pets. He accepted each with a gentle nudge, his tail a steady metronome. Sophie slipped him a cookie, giggling as he crunched it. Jamal tossed a tennis ball, and Max, despite his soreness, gave a playful lunge, drawing cheers. The moment grounded the Thompsons, reminding them that Max's heart, goofy, loyal, true, remained unchanged, no matter his fame. As the crowd dispersed, the Thompsons lingered, Max sprawled in the grass, content. Neighbors stayed to clean up, their chatter filled with plans to rebuild. The park, though battered, felt alive again, its lanterns glowing like stars. Sarah looked at Max, then at Lily, her voice soft. "He brought us back together." Tom squeezed her hand, his eyes on the horizon. "He gave us a reason to keep going." Max, oblivious to the speeches and collars, lifted his head, sniffing the air. His eyes met Lily's, and he gave a soft woof, as if promising to stay by her side. The flood had left wounds, but Max's heroism had planted seeds of healing, and Willow Creek was ready to grow again. Willow Creek woke to a new dawn, the flood's muddy fingerprints still fresh but fading under the community's resolve. The receding waters revealed a landscape of loss, homes gutted, streets clogged with debris, the park a swamp of twisted swings and fallen branches. Yet the neighborhood pulsed with a quiet defiance, fueled by Max, the golden Labrador whose heroism had saved lives and sparked a collective will to rise again. The Thompsons, their home a soggy shell, stood at the heart of this renewal, their pride in Max a beacon for their own recovery. Lily walked Max through the muddy streets, his new hero's collar glinting in the morning light. His limp was gone, his cuts healing, though he moved slower, content to stay close after days of relentless bravery. Lily's sneakers squelched in the mud, but her smile was bright, Max's leash a tether to hope. "You made everyone believe." "Again," she told him, scratching his ears. Max's tail wagged, his brown eyes warm, as if he understood. Behind them, Sarah and Tom carried cleaning supplies, joining neighbors in the slow, steady work of rebuilding. The community's efforts were a patchwork of grit and generosity. Mr. Jenkins, his bungalow propped up with temporary supports, swept mud from his porch, pausing to wave at passing volunteers. The Garcia family, their home uninhabitable, stayed with neighbors, but returned daily to salvage what they could. Luis hauling debris, Maria sorting through Mia's waterlogged toys. Aisha, with Amir in a carrier, handed out bottled water from a donated crate, her smile a quiet thank you to the town that Max had helped save. Across Willow Creek, people shared tools, food, and stories, their losses knitting them closer. Max was a constant presence, his golden fur a familiar sight as he trotted from house to house. He'd nap on the Garcia's borrowed porch, play fetch with Sophie in a cleared yard, or sit by Mrs. Carter as she sorted salvaged photos. His visits lifted spirits, a reminder of what they'd survived. "He's our good luck charm," Jamal said, tossing Max a stick, his grin wide. Max's gentle presence was a balm, easing the ache of ruined homes and uncertain futures. At the Thompsons' house, the family tackled their own damage. The living room was a mess, sodden carpets, warped furniture, and a faint mildew stench. Sarah scrubbed walls, her hands raw, while Tom hauled out ruined books, pausing over Lily's waterlogged sketchbook. "We'll get you a new one," he promised, his voice soft. Lily, sorting through her room, found Max's favorite frisbee, miraculously dry, and hugged it close. "Max kept us safe," she said, her resolve mirroring the neighborhood's. The family worked together, their bond with Max grounding them in the chaos. Lily's school closed during the flood, reopened in a nearby community center, its classrooms buzzing with talk of Max. Her teacher, Ms. Harper, assigned a project: tell a story of courage from the flood. Lily's hand shot up, her eyes alight. "I want to write about Max," she said, and Ms. Harper smiled, having seen the Max the Hero posts online. Lily dove in, interviewing neighbors after school, her notebook filling with their stories. Mr. Jenkins described Max's barks at his attic window, his voice cracking with gratitude. Maria Garcia recounted their rooftop rescue, Mia's giggles, punctuating the tale. Each interview deepened Lily's pride, but also her understanding of courage, not just Max's but the community's. The project became a bridge, connecting Willow Creek's past to its future. Lily's classmates, inspired, shared their own stories. Parents who'd carried siblings to safety, neighbors who'd shared food, firefighters like Jenna who'd braved the storm. Lily's interviews revealed Max's broader impact. His rescues had sparked a chain reaction, prompting strangers to donate supplies and volunteers to clear streets. A local hardware store delivered free lumber, a church sent hot meals. Willow Creek was rebuilding not just homes, but trust in each other. Max, unaware of his role, remained the neighborhood's heart. He'd wander to the park, where volunteers planted new trees, their roots a promise of renewal. Children followed him, laughing as he chased a ball, his energy returning. Sarah watched one afternoon, her heart swelling. "He's healing us," she told Tom, who nodded, his arm around her. "He's showing us we're stronger than we thought." The flood's wounds were deep, but Max's presence was a reminder that love could rebuild what water had destroyed. Lily's project grew into a scrapbook, its pages filled with quotes, photos, and her own sketches of Max, leaping through water, leading boats nuzzling her hand. She titled it Max's Courage, her handwriting bold. "It's not just about Max," she told Sarah, her voice thoughtful. "It's about everyone he brought together." Sarah hugged her, tears prickling. "You're right, sweetheart, he's our glue." As weeks passed, Willow Creek took shape again. Roofs were patched, streets cleared, and the park's swings replaced. The old oak tree, propped up with stakes, stood as a symbol of endurance. Max's daily walks became a ritual, neighbors greeting him with treats and smiles. The Thompsons, their home slowly drying out, felt a new strength, rooted in Max's love and the community he'd saved. Lily, finishing her project, looked at Max, sprawled on the porch, and whispered, "You changed everything." The flood had tested Willow Creek, but Max had proven its heart was unbreakable. As the neighborhood rebuilt, his legacy grew, a quiet promise that together they could face anything. Willow Creek stood taller with each passing day, its wounds healing under the steady hands of a community bound by resilience. The flood's scars remained, patched roofs, faded watermarks, the park's muddy patches, but the neighborhood's spirit shone brighter, nurtured by Max, the golden Labrador whose heroism had woven neighbors into a family. The Thompsons, their home slowly reclaiming its warmth, felt Max's impact in every smile, every shared tool, every step toward recovery. As spring deepened, the town turned its gaze to the bond that had carried them through, the unspoken love between humans and their pets. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her scrapbook project, Max's Courage, open before her. Pages brimmed with stories of Max's rescues, neighbors' quotes, and her sketches of him braving the flood. She added a final drawing, Max and her side by side under the old oak tree, her pencil capturing the trust in his eyes. "It's not just Max's story," she told Sarah, who was brewing coffee nearby. "It's about how pets make us better." Sarah smiled, setting down her mug. "You're wise beyond your years, Lily. Max taught us that." Max sprawled on the floor, his hero's collar slightly worn but still proud. His injuries had healed, his energy back to its playful peak, though he seemed content to stay close, sensing the family's need for his warmth. Lily's project had sparked something in Willow Creek, a desire to celebrate not just Max but all pets who'd been anchors during the flood. The idea for a pet fair took root, proposed by Jamal's mother, who'd found solace in her cat's purring during sleepless nights. "Let's honor our animals," she said at a community meeting, and the crowd agreed, eager to share their stories. The fair was set for a Saturday in the park, now partially restored with new grass and benches. Volunteers transformed the space, stringing colorful banners and setting up booths for pet games, training demos, and adoption drives. Children painted signs, pets are heroes too and love your furry friends. Max, as the guest of honor, wore a bandana Lily tied around his neck, its red fabric emblazoned with a paw print. "You're the star," she whispered, kissing his nose. Max's tail wagged, ready for the spotlight. The fair buzzed with life. Families arrived with dogs, cats, and even a pet rabbit, their laughter mingling with barks and meows. Mr. Jenkins brought his elderly beagle, who'd howled during the flood, alerting him to the rising water. Maria Garcia carried Mia's new goldfish, a gift to soothe her nightmares. Aisha, with Amir giggling in a stroller, shared how her neighbor's dog had comforted her during evacuation. Each story echoed Max's impact, revealing the quiet heroism of pets who sensed fear, eased grief, or simply stayed close when the world fell apart. Lily, with Max at her side, set up a booth to share her scrapbook. Neighbors crowded around, flipping through its pages, their voices warm with memories. "Max led the boat to our roof," Luis Garcia said, pointing to a sketch. Sophie, now bolder, added, "He found me at the window. I knew I'd be okay." The stories grew, spilling beyond the flood. Jamal's cat waking him during an asthma attack, Mrs. Carter's parakeet singing through her loneliness, Nate's border collie found safe post-flood, curling up with Emma during panic attacks. Pets, they realized, were more than companions, they were lifelines, their loyalty a mirror to Max's courage. The fair's heart was its sharing circle, where residents told pet stories under the old oak tree. Lily spoke first, her voice clear. "Max saved people because he loves us. Pets know when we need them." She held up her scrapbook, its cover now laminated, and the crowd clapped, Max barking as if in agreement. Others followed. A firefighter shared how her dog calmed her after tough shifts. A child described her hamster's cuddles during the flood's chaos. The stories wove a tapestry of connection, showing how animals bolstered mental health, eased trauma, and built community. The Thompsons, inspired by the fair, embraced responsible pet ownership. Sarah researched microchipping, ensuring Max's safety if he ever wandered again. Tom enrolled Max in a basic training refresher, reinforcing commands like stay to prevent another flood escape. Lily made a pet emergency kit, food, a leash, a first aid guide, her practicality a nod to the flood's lessons. "We have to keep him safe," she told her parents, her voice serious. Sarah hugged her, proud of her growth. "You're his hero now, too." Clara, the reporter, covered the fair, her footage capturing Max romping with kids and neighbors sharing stories. Her broadcast, aired regionally, framed pets as unsung heroes, urging viewers to cherish their animals. Donations poured in. Pet food, vet vouchers, rebuilding supplies. Proof that Max's story had touched hearts far beyond Willow Creek. The fair ended with a group photo, Max at the center, surrounded by pets and people, the oak tree a backdrop of endurance. As the sun set, the Thompsons walked home, Max trotting happily. Lily clutched her scrapbook, its stories a testament to the human-animal bond. "Pets make us stronger," she said, looking at Max. Sarah nodded, her hand in Tom's. "And Max made us a family again." Willow Creek, reborn through love and loyalty, glowed with the promise of brighter days, its heart beating in every wagging tail and gentle purr. Willow Creek stood reborn, its streets cleared of mud, its homes patched and painted, its spirit forged anew in the crucible of the flood. The park bloomed with fresh grass, the old oak tree sturdy with new supports, and children's laughter echoed once more. The flood's scars lingered, faint watermarks, rebuilt porches, a quieter river, but they were badges of survival, proof of a community that refused to break. At the heart of this renewal was Max, the golden Labrador whose courage had saved lives and woven Willow Creek into a tapestry of resilience. The Thompsons, their home now warm and dry, carried Max's legacy forward, a beacon of hope for their town and beyond. Lily sat on the porch, Max sprawled beside her, his fur graying slightly at the muzzle but his eyes still bright with love. She flipped through her scrapbook, Max's courage, its pages worn from countless readings. The project had won a school award, its stories of Max's rescues, Mr. Jenkins, the Garcias, Aisha and Amir, and more, shared at a district assembly. Classmates had cheered, and Lily, once shy, had spoken with confidence, her voice carrying Max's lessons. Courage, loyalty, community. "You changed me too," she whispered, scratching Max's ears. He nudged her hand, his tail thumping. As if agreeing, Sarah and Tom watched from the doorway, their coffee mugs steaming in the cool spring air. Their home, once a sodden ruin, was whole again. New floors, fresh paint, and Lily's sketches framed on the walls. The flood had tested them, but Max's heroism had anchored their family, deepening their bond. "He gave us more than we lost," Sarah said, her voice soft. Tom nodded, his arm around her. "He gave us Willow Creek." Max's presence, now a gentle constant, was a reminder that love could rebuild what water tore apart. The neighborhood's recovery was a collective triumph. The Garcia family moved into a rebuilt home, Mia's laughter filling their yard. Mr. Jenkins, his bungalow reinforced, tended his tulips, waving to passers-by. Aisha, with Amir now toddling, opened a small bakery, her scones a community favorite. The park hosted weekly picnics, the swings alive with children like Sophie and Jamal. New trees planted during the rebuilding stood as symbols of growth, their leaves whispering resilience. Willow Creek wasn't just back, it was better. It's people bound by shared survival and Max's unwavering heart. Max remained the town's heartbeat. His daily walks drew smiles and treats, neighbors calling, "There's our hero." He'd nap on Mrs. Carter's porch, play fetch with Jamal, or sit by Aisha as Amir giggled at his wagging tail. His hero's collar, slightly faded, was a badge of honor, worn proudly. Yet Max was still Max, chasing squirrels, stealing carrots, sprawling across Lily's sketches. His fame, from Max, the hero posts, to Clara's news segments, never changed him. His love for Lily, for the Thompsons, for Willow Creek, was his truest legacy. Inspired by Max, the Thompsons launched a community initiative, the Willow Creek Pet Safety Program. Sparked by Lily's emergency kit and their flood lessons, it aimed to protect pets in crises. Sarah organized workshops on microchipping, training, and disaster prep, drawing crowds eager to safeguard their animals. Tom built pet evacuation kits, distributed free at the community center. Lily, her scrapbook as a guide, spoke to kids about pet care, her confidence a gift from Max's story. "He saved us, so we saved them," she told a group holding up Max's leash. The program spread, neighboring towns adopting its model, Max's name synonymous with preparedness. Clara's final broadcast on Max aired nationally, framing him as a symbol of hope. "One dog showed us what love can do," she said, her footage of the pet fair and Willow Creek's recovery moving viewers. Donations poured in, vet care, pet supplies, rebuilding funds, proof that Max's story resonated far beyond the river's banks. Social media buzzed with pet owners sharing their own tales of loyalty, from dogs alerting to fires to cats easing grief, each post a nod to Max's ripple effect. As summer approached, Willow Creek celebrated its first post-flood festival, the park alive with music, food, and laughter. Max, wearing a new bandana, trotted beside Lily, greeted like royalty. The mayor declared Max Day an annual event, a tribute to courage and community. Lily's scrapbook, now in the town library, inspired a mural on the community center. Max, golden and bold, leading a boat through water with neighbors cheering. "That's us," Sophie said, pointing, her voice proud. One evening, as the festival wound down, Lily and Max walked to the riverbank, the water now calm, reflecting a crimson sunset. She sat on the grass, Max's head in her lap, her fingers tracing his graying fur. "You're my hero always," she said, her voice steady with love. Max's eyes met hers, warm and knowing, his soft woof a promise to stay. The town's lights glowed behind them, a constellation of rebuilt lives, each one touched by a dog's heart. The Thompsons joined them, Sarah and Tom sitting close, their hands entwined. "We're stronger because of him," Sarah said, her gaze on the river. Tom nodded, his voice quiet. "He showed us what matters." Willow Creek, once broken, was whole, its future bright with the lessons of Max's courage, love, unity, and the power of a loyal friend. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Max's tail thumped, a final note in a story that would live on, urging others to cherish their pets and share their own tales of devotion.